Shortly after launching a social media tirade against the leader of the Catholic Church, the President of the United States posted a strange artifact. It was an AI-generated image of himself in flowing robes, placing his hand on a sick man, appearing to perform a miracle in the likeness of Jesus. The target of his anger was Pope Leo XIV. Formerly known as Cardinal Prevost of Chicago, he is the first American ever elected to lead the Papacy. Having an American president publicly state he is not a fan of an American pope, while calling the pontiff weak on crime, breaks every modern precedent for relations between the Oval Office and the Vatican. The tension is grounded in a broader movement. An open letter signed by over 300 Christian leaders warns that a moral and spiritual collapse is currently underway in the United States, fueled by the rise of Christian nationalism. At its center, this is a contest over the right to define the moral character of the state. With both men claiming spiritual legitimacy, the confrontation tests the boundaries between religious teaching and political power. The administration's new strategy is being called the Donroe Doctrine. It is a foreign policy model built on public spectacle and the aggressive pursuit of energy and mineral resources. We saw this doctrine in action with the rapid extrajudicial kidnapping of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro. The operation was a major media event, but it arrived with no plan for stabilization and a direct interest in the country's oil reserves. We saw it again when the president questioned Denmark's sovereignty over Greenland, floating the idea of an American takeover to secure the island's strategic assets. The pinnacle of this approach is the current US-led war in Iran. The strategy relies on aggressive naval blockades in the Middle East and threats that, in the president's words, a whole civilization will die. The administration frequently justifies this violence with religious rhetoric. The defense secretary recently urged Americans to pray for overwhelming violence against our enemies in the name of Jesus Christ. Under the Donroe Doctrine, traditional faith is being used as a tool to authorize state expansion and military force. But the Vatican is offering a counter-narrative. Pope Leo and prominent American cardinals are now using their platforms to challenge this use of faith. Catholic just war theory requires strict prerequisites. A conflict must have a focused aim, restore justice, and cannot be for economic gain. The Vatican assesses the Iran conflict fails these tests. Pope Leo condemns the war as immoral, driven by a delusion of omnipotence. The ideological boiling point arrived when Pope Leo declared that God does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war, but rejects them. The president retaliated by doubling down. He attacked the Pope's record on crime, labeled him a radical left politician, and then posted the AI-generated image of himself as a Christ-like figure. This is what happens when a political agenda centered on military superiority meets the rigid moral boundaries of traditional religious doctrine. The blowback to the president's remarks was immediate. Even primary foreign allies, like Italy's Giorgia Meloni, described the words as unacceptable. Domestic pushback has also crossed partisan lines. Several of the president's prominent conservative allies publicly denounced the attacks on the Pope. Influential conservative Catholic leaders who once cooperated with the administration have now stepped forward to state that the president owes the Pope an apology. This chart highlights the split in favorability among U.S. voters. Pope Leo XIV holds a net positive rating of +34, while the president's rating sits at -12, a gap that crosses nearly every demographic. The president's reliance on spectacle creates a unique vulnerability. The strategy falters when a unified moral voice highlights the contradictions of using faith to justify resource wars. The president's actions have turned a religious disagreement into a question of identity. As the United States approaches its 250th anniversary, the public must determine which vision of the gospel will define the American character.